Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is 40 Mike, as blessed upon by Mr. Travis next door to me here. And I am of Hellfish Haven, and Travis is of Oscar Mike radio fame. And together, we are W.A.R. We are resilient. And I just want to make a quick, comment, a little bolo, a little, a little bluff, This is W.A.R. This is We Are Resilient. That's what we're here to talk about. Veterans, supporters, their community. Any shit that's going on outside of war will not be tolerated in the comments or by outsiders. It will not be spoken upon here. It will not be allowed in the comments. The United States has a First Amendment. YouTube does not. They have a terms of service. We will abide by it, and we will make sure that others are. Mods, I appreciate your help tonight. We might need it. Other than that, let's have a good show tonight. Let's have fun. Let's keep things going. We are W.A.R. We are resilient. And let's dive right into what is going on in the veteran community. Travis, how are you tonight?
Doing all right, man. Doing all right. It's good to be here.
Thank you, as always. And first thing we want to do is I want to go over this letter here. So we'll do a quick read together and go over it.
Okay.
So right here, every veteran knows the cost of service and the promise that comes with it. If we're changed in service, our nation will be there for us when we come home. But today, that promise is being limited by something most Americans never see: federal budget rules. Policies like pay-go, pay as you go, cut as you go, sequestration, and budget caps were created to control government spending. In reality, Congress can ignore those rules when it chooses so. Even as federal deficits and the national debt continue to rise, yet some politicians hide behind them when it comes to improving veteran benefits and services. When lawmakers try to expand or strengthen veteran benefits, pay-go requires them to offset the cost by cutting other programs or raising revenue. That means even widely supported proposals can stall, not because they're controversial, but because of how they're paid for. For veterans, that creates a fundamental problem. Our benefits aren't optional. They were already paid for through service and sacrifice. Yet these rules treat them like any other government program, forcing veterans to effectively pay for improvements to their own care. These budget constraints have real-world consequences. They can delay expansion in benefits and access to care, prevent improvements to the Department of Veterans Affairs programs, and impose funding limits that don't match veterans' needs. Even when Congress wants to act, these rules can slow or stop progress. The Major Richard Starr Act, full disclosure, I am one of the veterans that is covered by the Major Richard Starr Act and would receive the support from it if it were to pass. I'm one of the 54 to 59,000 veterans that it currently affects. And the Love Lives On Act are perfect examples. These bipartisan bills, which would achieve key DAV policy goals by eliminating the offset between military retirement pay and VA disability compensation, and by strengthening survivors' benefits, respectively, are being held up under the guise of pay-go. DAV is working to ensure veterans aren't held back by budget rules that ignores the true cost of war. We're calling on Congress to exempt all veterans programs, benefits, and services from pay-go requirements. We also believe veterans programs should be protected from sequestration and across-the-board cuts, that funding for veterans benefits and VA healthcare should be exempt from arbitrary budget caps so it can reflect real-world demand. The cost of war doesn't end when a service member comes home. It continues in their care and benefits that veterans have earned. That cost is a national responsibility. It shouldn't be shifted back onto those who have already bore the cost of service. Removing pay-go and budget caps for veterans isn't about avoiding fiscal responsibility. It's about keeping faith with those who served. DAV will continue fighting to ensure the promise is kept for your family and for every generation of veterans to come. I think that was, nicely put by these guys when it comes to, ensuring that our safety is looked after and that we're not being, discredited by the the effects that's happening here.
Right.
So it's just, we want to make sure that, the key thing to this that's affecting folks and making things really difficult is the fact that you have a program that says, hey, we are, we're running things, we're taking care of veterans, but at the same time, they are dropping the ball because instead of taking care of us like they, you say before you go to war, when you come back, everything is taken care of. When you come back, you don't get that taken care of because now you've got these guys saying, these are two different programs. You shouldn't be getting your retirement pay and VA compensation, but they're not two different programs. And especially trying to pay for, retirement from the VA, retirement from the DOD, shouldn't cost the VA money. We're talking about two separate organizations, the Department of Defense and Department of Veterans Affairs. Why are we charging the Department of Veterans Affairs to pay for a program that DOD is not funding, which they should be? So if you retire from any other organization, that organization, covers your retirement. They don't ask another organization to cut their funding to get paid for it. So that's where I think that the biggest, thing that's confusing is.
Well, my problem with it is from the get-go is a promise was made, and now it seems like there's work to water down the promise to where it's nothing. And there's work being done to say, hey, you don't need that much, or we can let the private insurers get involved. And I'm like, oh, that'd be a good idea. I'm like, no, it wouldn't be a good idea. You think you want private insurance involved in your VA care. You do not. You do not. And the thing is, if you can't take care of us after war, then you shouldn't be going to war. You should have to look at how you're doing things. Maybe that's the problem here. But no, we were at war for effectively 20 years. It didn't go that well, wasn't thought out that well, and now the bill's coming due. So how about keeping us out of war? How about, following through on your promise? And let's not give money to other groups of people that, aren't Americans or don't rate it.
Absolutely. And, it's just the hardest thing to see is like how these people are like, choosing and defending, what's going to happen. You want to see everybody, taken care of, and you want folks to be able to get their benefits as earned. But I think the biggest thing that's happening is our veterans and the legacy thereof, the kids, the grandchildren, are the biggest feeder to, military service. I think, when we sat down in basic and they asked, who's got, a family member, father, grandfather, sibling, uncle, whatever, who's in the service, I would say about 90% of that class raised their hand and said, they've got somebody in their immediate family that's in the service. So if we are not taking care of our veterans are going to in turn not say, hey, son or daughter, let's, take care of, you want to think about service as, something to do after, graduating high school. That veteran may in turn say, hey, no, go do something else. Find something that's actually going to take care of you because this hasn't taken care of me. So why, are we going to do it for you guys?
Yep.
And I just don't want to see that happen because, that is the biggest thing that's happening. And, we feel as though folks want to be able to stand tall and, be proud of their service. And at the same time, they're making that very, very difficult. You want to say hi to some folks in the chat real quick and say thank you guys for coming. Dar, thank you very much. 66 Love, hello guys. Travis, I don't know if you know this, but this week I had the pleasure of hitting 500 subscriptions on the YouTube.
Let's go. Very nice.
So
very nice.
I had some support from some fellow content creators. I was very happy to have these guys, endorse me and support me and sharing what's going on and how things are going. So I do apologize if things aren't up to par with what folks are used to on channels, but we're going from me and Travis talking to a snowman and a squirrel to talking to a full audience of people. So we're very excited to have you guys here and to be able to share the the ongoings in the veteran community with you guys, and also different mental health practices and resources that are available for folks in and out of the service alike. The way I look at it is, I was trained to be a peer support specialist for veteran services. And within that training, they taught me how to do things and how to find things and get resources out to folks. And if somebody comes to me that's not a veteran, it would be pretty gross of me not to be able to say, hey, here's a resource or here's some help. So if anybody is ever out there that needs help or needs resources, don't hesitate to come up and letting folks know what's going on. Here's the resources that you can use. Here's my ear if you need to scream or need somebody to talk to. I'm here for that. I'll be a punching bag if you need to scream and yell and get off your chest, whatever you need to. Just get it off your chest instead of doing something that you ultimately can't take back. Oh, and Sarah has not seen this. Yes, I did lose the hair. It's gone. The wife's her vote outweighed everybody else's vote. So when she said it's got to go, I said, yes, ma'am, it will. So she, she is the, what do they call it? Household six. She's the head of the household here when it comes to pulling rank. So folks are not happy about that, but it was good though. Also, last week we did not have a show on. We did have a quick. If I do share screen for like a YouTube, will it show the video that's playing?
It should. Let's find out.
All right. Just give me 1 second so I can cue it up here. So I want to show the video I made last week on my channel to put some memories together and say bye to a soldier that passed away. So Ashley Brennan, specialist E4 type, had not made it through the war at home. So we wanted to be able to. I don't want that one. That's the stream. Go back, Mike. Hold on 1 second. Go back. All right. So the stream I'm looking for is the. I definitely don't like how they have YouTube set up for this at all. By the way, like if you have videos on one tab and live on another, like why can't they all just be together?
Very confusing, real quick.
And like especially like how you have things set up too, like with the. Hold on a second. How you have things set up with the podcast version of your show and like the video version?
Yeah, it's hard to tell. They could have done that better.
All right, so folks, here is going to be the let's share the screen, and here is a video that we're going to share real quick about a friend of mine, a fellow soldier who served in Baghdad, Iraq. And what's crazy is Ashley came to us right out of school. Like she graduated high school, went to basic training, went to AIT, military police school, advanced individual training. We do it all in one spot called OSA, one station unit training. So she came right from training right to us going to Baghdad. So it was like, boom, boom. She was, fresh, like 19, didn't know much, but like that youth and, that, freshness and, comedy that, came with her was a big refresh in the combat zone and the chaos that can ensue. So here's the video. That was the video that we had made.
Wow.
And just just a way to share things and to let folks know what's going on and and how things are going, and we just wanted to be able to show a fellow soldier off properly and make sure that they were taken care of as they go on. And the tough thing is you're ready when you're overseas to understand that loss is going to happen. You're prepared for it. You're mentally figuring out, you've calculated into things that not everybody could maybe coming home with us. But when it comes to it happening at home, it catches a lot of us off guard, and it stops us from seeing clearly and understanding why it happens. When you write a risk management paperwork for like when you were doing convoys, like obviously it's a high risk management because IEDs, enemy forces, accident, a Humvee rollover, things like that. So all that makes it high risk. But some of the things that you do to mitigate it is you go back and gunners will be at name tape defilade. They'll be they'll have a gunner restraint system on to make sure that if a vehicle rolls over, they don't go flying out. You drive with windows up and things like that to make sure that you're protected. And then you do all these things to make sure that safety is first. But then one of the other things that you have to write in the comments is that there's an acceptable risk that loss of life may occur. And that was one thing that always bothered me. That was like, that when you sign these things and you write up these, risk management, what is it when it's like a big sheet and like all the different things to go up and down, like, so it's like a big, like a matrix, like a risk management matrix.
Yeah. Yes. So
we had those, and filling that out, that was one thing that always drove me, was like the acceptable, loss like category. It was like, and like to me, like, and to my soldiers, like at my level where I was, first in charge of myself as a E4, as a specialist, you're just in charge of you and your weapon. And then, you become a sergeant, you're in charge of a team, 2 or 3 people. Then you become a staff sergeant for the Army, and you're in charge of a squad, 12 to 15. Then you're a sergeant first class, you're in charge of a platoon. You got, anywhere from 30 to, 60 people under your charge. And I say charge instead of command because the command of the platoon is the lieutenant. And, the platoon sergeant is there to make sure the soldiers are trained, make sure they're equipped, and make sure they're capable to do the job necessary. The lieutenant is there to make sure the mission is executed, and the squad leaders are there to get it done. And it was just always one thing that you made sure these guys had everything that they needed, to accomplish their mission. And that acceptable loss to me from the time I was myself, I wouldn't want to lose myself. And then when I was a team leader, I don't want to lose my team. my squad leader, I don't want to lose anybody. So it's like, I understand that when you get higher up, like talking to the general, he's got, thousands and thousands of troops under his command. And it's like, what was really cool, the general that we served with in OIF 3, 2004, 2005, when we were into Crit Iraq, the general we served with, every single memorial service for every soldier that was killed in Task Force Liberty underneath the 42nd ID, the Rainbow Division, we ensured that we went to their memorial service, because he said every soldier that gives their life, whether it's a non-combat related death or it's a combat related death, he wanted to be there to remember them, to learn their name, to learn their story, because they gave everything for the division, for the task force, and for the mission of Operation Iraqi Freedom. So he felt it was our responsibility to be there to pay our final respects to them. And then that's one of the reasons why we create things like this, is to have a place where folks can talk and share their missions and share their different things, because like every soldier, every service member has like such a unique experience. So like when you hear people talk, you see some things that are similar, our journeys. But then when even I speak with you, like I learned different things that like I never would have known about. Like the missile systems that you guys operated, like it's just wild to learn and find out. Like talking with May about like the systems that she had that would decimate your missiles, and like it's just wild. Like everything that's out there. Like, what do you guys have tonight for Oscar Mike Radio?
Excuse me.
I'm sorry.
I have Greg Parchenko on. He is the founder of Tactical Snacks, and these are high energy, low sugar, low calorie snacks. Think like like gummy snacks, maybe. He has a protein cookie that's really good. And a couple other things. It was just interesting to see, and he's a Canadian veteran. It was just interesting hearing, his story, his thought process behind how he did this. These snacks are very good. I freaking love them. And again, they're not like candy. They're snacks. They're designed to give you a hit of calories and, keep you going without loading up with a lot of sugar. So that's been very good. Rolling right along, and lots of good stuff going on.
Absolutely. Like it's always good to see how like folks are able to come up with creative and ways to be able to share things. Like Sarah says, everybody loves a good snack. No. And so that, if you guys want, will be tonight on Oscar Mike Radio.
Yeah, I got the link down here in the chat. You can check that out. Very, very good.
Let me see if I can copy that real quick.
The breech peach is one of my favorites.
This is the site here.
Yeah, the
tacticalsnacks.com.
Yep.
And it's funny because like snacks are such a way to get a quick conversation going. Like when we started doing the coffee and camaraderie events, it's one thing to host a game night and have things available, folks, but you'll only get the people that actually want to come out and play the game, or have the kids that they need something to do that will come out. But the second you introduce, hey, we got free coffee and muffins and free donuts and things like that, folks will be like, oh, absolutely, I'm going to be there even more now. So it's like the smallest thing like that to get people to come out and be able to increase the odds of having them share their story or be able to get information that may end up ultimately saving their lives. It's such a a good thing to have. And if it costs $20 to get some a couple dozen donuts, a half dozen muffins, and a couple of those boxes of Joes, it's well worth it.
Yeah, I really think it's not the big fancy programs. It's just something simple as breakfast. Make a plate for the wife and the kids, and then, like you said, get the veterans together. Find out their information and figure out where they are and what they need.
Absolutely. And the other thing too that like it's always good to to have these programs out there and like a lot of stuff that you've covered too on Oscar Mike Radio like has been veterans coming up with different ways after they come home to serve. Like that's one thing that I've always like seeing like you're sharing not just the stories of folks that are in the service and what they're doing while they serve, but I feel like the stories after they serve sometimes are so much more.
I think so, and this is where some people get a little discouraged. Sometimes they see the special forces guy getting all the glory, and oh, you didn't serve in combat, you're not this, you're not that. But I'm like, okay, I didn't serve in combat either. I wasn't special forces, but you can do a lot, and there's going to be somebody else like you who's going to need, help or hand up, and you can be positioned to help them out. We got to come together. And I think that's overlooked sometimes. And I get it, I get where, you might not feel like you're getting the respect sometimes you've earned. And make no mistake, you've earned it. But, you know,
Did my camera go out by chance?
yeah, it did. I was going to say, I didn't know if that was on purpose or not.
I'm invisible. All right. Hold on a second. I'm gonna go off and come right back. You can continue on. Sorry about that.
So, but you have, value. Your story has value. And if you're, post service and you're, running a business, trying to create something,